It's now time for the big story, and definitely what is on our minds this morning is the debate, the presidential debate that happened last night between Kamala Harris and, of course, Donald Trump. It was the first presidential debate of the 2024 race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. And you watched it, didn't you? Would have seen intense exchanges on economy, immigration, abortion, and many other issues. Here we are this morning with our very special guest, a Jamaican who is a very active member of the Jamaican diaspora. And she's here with us this morning to give an analysis of last night's debate. We are very, very happy, as always, to welcome to our program Dr. Karren Dunkley. Good morning, Doc. How are you doing today?
Good morning to you and your listeners, my dear Richie B. Greetings and salutations.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the program with us, Karren. Let's start off right off the bat. What are your impressions of the debate last night? Give us an overview, if you will.
My impressions of the debate, really simple. It was policies versus personalities. Clearly, the vice president had the most compelling personality. We saw that she was resolute. She brought her prosecutorial hat of being forceful and decisive in her arguments, and also being palatable to the public. We know that Trump has created an image of being vicious and ferocious and really sticking to the same old playbook. We saw the issues in terms of policies. VP Harris articulated her issue, where she stood, her policy on healthcare, on the economy, on reproductive freedom, on immigration. And then we saw Trump attempting to breed fear with the eating of pets. It's a story that took the internet by storm. Even our good Haitian brothers and sisters saying that they were eating dogs. And this, by the way, is not new to America in terms of conjuring up images of the willful immigrant that is violent and eat animals. So we know that this debate, I don't know if it's going to be the decisive factor, but it was a deciding factor, especially for independent voters such as myself who are registered independents.
Did the candidates, Dr. Dunkley, effectively contrast their visions for the future of the United States of America? And how clearly did they differentiate themselves on critical issues like, foreign policy, climate change, and so on?
As a lifelong educator, let me just say that definitely Trump should have done his homework. By that I mean, when asked, for example, the economy for middle-class American remains at the forefront, especially with the rate of inflation, and just the high interest rates around, and the difficulties, the challenges now with home ownership. We feel that whether or not we agree with these policies, at least VP Harris spoke to the $6,000 tax child credit. She spoke to the incentives for small businesses for $50,000. She spoke to home ownership, what we would call solutions for middle class Americans. As Trump, we heard Trump say, he's not president. He didn't think about it, and he really said that he doesn't have a plan. So in terms of nuancing what they believe in, that was an issue. We again looked at immigration, where we know that there was a bipartisan bill to deal with immigration and the crisis at the border. And we know that Trump single-handedly did call the Republicans and told them not to support the bill. So for Harris, it wasn't a perfect night for her. But again, in terms of international, she spoke to what's happening in terms of Israel and Gaza, what's happening there. She spoke to the Ukrainian crisis and what needed to happen. And then she also, again, successfully aligned Trump to autocracy by saying that he looks up to Putin, but they would have him for lunch. So I'm not sure that Trump did as well. Again, he needed to have done some homework, but clearly the vice president did her homework. And even with fracking, we're in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. which is where I live,
Yes.
fracking, that controversial method of extracting oil. She was able to speak to why she shifted her policy, and little beknowns that the Biden administration has actually had the most oil coming out of America. So in terms of energy, becoming energy efficient or energy independent, they have really done a good job.
I want us to focus on things like body language and facial expressions. And my question really now is, how well do you think that Kamala Harris handled Donald Trump's sometimes sort of aggressive debate tactics? And do you think her responses resonated with voters looking for strong leadership?
I think she did a really great job. In fact, some say that she has been the first debater, again, probably hearkening to her prosecutorial background, that successfully needled Donald Trump. We know that Trump initially is the one that has had great one-liners. So, for example, we saw him saying that she only in terms of economy has run, spot, run. And he said it's a 3-sentence when it really is a 3-word. But in terms of looking at him, in terms of saying, and she was really forceful and very calm. She baited him and said, look, I told you that you guys are going to hear a lot of lies this evening. And again, here's an example of these lies. She smiled at him. She looked at him directly. And we could see that Trump really tended to look at the moderator. So I think in terms of body language, in terms of calm, in terms of hubris, sarcasm, that Harris, she brought all of that to the debate. And Trump, he almost appeared what people accused Biden of being too old, and too old in the sense of being able to be agile and nimble in his thinking and to come back quickly. And we saw him struggle yesterday in the debate to bring himself as a candidate in terms of presence. And remember, he used to, if you watch his clips, he was like little Marco Rubio, and he would demean people and diminish them. And we saw Harris do that to him in an intellectual way.
The very first greeting between them didn't look like there was much harmony to be expected as the debate would have unfolded. And even at the end of the debate, frankly speaking, as a viewer, I was a little disappointed that there was no shaking of hands, no. I don't think they said a word to each other. They just one turned left, one turned right, and they just walked off that stage. Was that a good look?
No, it was not a good look. I think, though, that what it showed on her end is that she is willing to put the American people first. She's willing to cross the aisle. And that is what was symbolic. She's willing to cross the aisle in the interest of America. Now, let's just say this. If you fact-checked both her and Trump, both the vice president and Trump did make some misleading statements. However, she made fewer, like the unemployment rate when he left office was 6.2 and not 14%. As she stated. But I think that this is indicative of the kind of leader, here's America really is tired. And if you watch the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, Richie, they spoke a lot about joy and optimism. We in the United States who live here, who are naturalized citizens, we're under a cloud. There's been this polarization, this division. And the greatness of American democracy has always been where you can speak to your partner, your spouse, your friends of different opinions, but never to this degree have we had this level of division and hate. It's really hate. And so what we saw yesterday was Kamala saying we need to bring the country together. We can disagree, but we saw Trump insisting on what he's always insisted on, that it's his way or no way at all.
I want us to focus now, Dr. Dunkley, on the role of the moderators in keeping the debate focused and productive. Did they succeed in keeping the candidates accountable and ensuring what I might call a fair exchange of ideas last night? Or did one person get more time than the other? Were those some of the concerns that you had?
No, I think the moderators did as best a job they could. They couldn't fact check everything. I was watching PolitiFact, so fact checking in real time, and there were so many instances on both sides, Trump often more than certainly VP Harris, where they embellished or exaggerated or just really Trump flat out told lies. So I think the moderators did their best to stay on track. They kept saying, well, we'll get to immigration later, when Trump started off talking about the eating of the pets and the dogs. I think the moderators tried to say, wait a second, that is not true. They're not killing. There's no state in which babies are executed. As Trump said, when they deliver babies, they're executed or killed. And I think that as best possible, they tried to keep on track. I don't believe that any candidate got more time than the other. What we did see is, again, Harris needling Trump on his ego, mocking his rallies. She said, hey, listen, this might sound odd to you, but go to a Trump rally. See what that is about. The world leaders are laughing at him, right? And she said, hey, he was fired by 81 million people. I thought that was a line. And so we see that Trump did not know. He appeared flustered in this debate. And I think that he will have to do a lot to regain and recommit, not regain, but to recommit to those voters who were counting on him to deliver. Why? Because again, Richie, we have those battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, where we know and that this and Wisconsin, it's going to become the deciding factor of personality versus policies, where even if you agree with Donald Trump on, for example, a big area of contention for even those who are moderate or liberal Democrats is whether or not transgender males should play in female sports. That's a big area that didn't even come up, but people are quietly mulling these issues over in their minds. So I think the moderators attempted to have a civil debate. At least we saw Harris being able to get her point of views across.
Going forward, who do you think will benefit most based on their performance last night, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
Absolutely, VP Harris. I think, first of all, that so there were key areas. On abortion, Trump attempted to reframe to say that he did not do away with abortion rights. He merely brought it back to the states, which is an area of federalism, whether you want certain, I would say, components of American life, education, abortion, healthcare, to be state or federal in terms of the determining factor. So I think that definitely VP Harris, because she was able to articulate her position on reproductive freedom. He became embroiled in a conversation about federalism. I think the January 20th election and whether or not he would have done anything differently with the attack on the Capitol when he blamed Nancy Pelosi, I thought that was a defining moment for him to say that I know they have attempted to paint me into a corner as being anti-democratic, but this is who I am. I think he lost an opportunity there. I think, again, with immigration, it would have been great to say we did not agree with the bipartisan bill because of A, Y, Z. He did not do this again. So I think Harris was able to advance her position on Ukraine. Again, Harris said that, Vladimir Putin would be sitting in Kiev if Trump were president. I think that matters. And Obamacare. Healthcare is a big issue for every American. Middle class, if you're, in the lower earning segment of the American population. And then Trump said, hey, I have some concepts of the plan. Not that I have a plan. So people want to, in our daily lives, Richie, we need to know. And also, VP Harris, what she did that was masterful, she distanced herself enough from Biden without maligning Biden and simply said to Trump, you're running against me, not Biden. And this is the possibility of my 4 years. So clearly, VP Harris is the one who emerged the winner. She would have converted some independents, but in the states where policy matters, Trump did not lose necessarily any supporters because they're going to continue to hold to those policy positions.
To the best of your knowledge, in closing, do you think that there will be another debate before the elections?
No, it appears that this is the only debate that they have agreed to. I think, again, that the American people will have to tune in to the different media and definitely look at independent media to really nuance out their policy position. I think Trump has to be clear that he cannot run on that VP Harris, whether she's black or what she is, he cannot run on an anti-woman agenda. Not saying that he was, that he now has to speak to the American people. They asked a question, are you better off 4 years? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And even though VP Harris did not answer this explicitly, because we know the inflation and everything that we have just discussed and we know has been happening around the economy, that is going to be the deciding question. Will you be better off 4 years from now? A, if you elect former President Trump, or B, if you elect Vice President Harris. And I think based on yesterday's performance, many Americans will say we will be better off if we choose Harris, that Harris has a plan.
Dr. Karren Dunkley, I thank you so much for your thoughts this morning, and I wish you a wonderful day. Talk again sometime soon. Take care.
Talk soon. Thank you. Walk good.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That's Dr. Karren Dunkley, ladies and gentlemen, a Jamaican who is an active member in the Jamaican diaspora. And she watched the debate and she came on this morning and gave us such a wonderful analysis from her own perspective as to what she would have seen and heard and thought of those responses. What are your thoughts? 876-861-4753. Or you can always reach us on our toll-free number, especially those in the United States of America, 877-255-3086.